Hey guys, this is Jenny from Creature Cove, and today is a vet visit video that did not turn out the way we were hoping. I'm going to put a trigger warning on this. My friend Maggie, I was kind of talking to her about it, and she's an animal lover too, and suggested that I put a trigger warning for anybody who doesn't like hearing about or talking about the loss of an animal, which is what ended up happening with this case. This is Zingo, our banana cinnamon ball python. He was born, I think, in August of 2022. He is my 11 or 12-year-old son, Jake's snake, and he wanted to start a ball python breeding project. And so we bought him a girlfriend, and we brought her home about 3 months ago. No, it wasn't even that long. It was like 2 months maybe, and brought her home. She was doing great. She was a great eater, started eating right off the bat. We had no issues with her. I did have her on paper towels for the first couple weeks just to make sure that we didn't have any, for the quarantine period, we did that. And Jake named her Zyla, so it's Zingo and Zyla. And the other day I went to go check on everybody before I headed to the farm, to the horse farm to work. And when I checked on Zyla, I found her just poop like everywhere in her cage, in her enclosure. And lifted up her cave, and I found her with a giant prolapse, rectal prolapse. If you don't know what a prolapse is, it's basically where she was probably pushing so hard to poop that like her, I guess, intestines, I'm not sure if it's like the rectum or the intestines, but she basically pooped out her intestines. So like a little bit of graphic content here, just a warning. So I have her in a sugar water mixture bath, trying to keep it moist. And I called the vet right away because this one is pretty bad and it's kind of getting worse. It just gets larger and larger. And so we're gonna head to the vet and see what we can do. We'll see in a minute.
You put saturated sugar on there?
Yes.
Perfect. That's good.
Which did not a darn thing so far. Yeah, I soaked her first in sugar water, and then to keep it moist, I put the sugar paste on it.
I want to use gloves because I don't want to touch a prolapse with my hands. It's not so much a bacteria. They got on my skin, but I don't want to get
her. Yeah.
It's basically on her inside, so to speak. We're not even going to try to replace this right now. We need to shrink this down considerably.
Yeah.
I could easily damage her if I try to get this back in now. There's obviously a lot of causes for this. It can be parasitic. Sometimes it just happens. Infections. Genetic. What we're going to have to do is soak her in some saturated sugar and try to do this in about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, okay, because we need to shrink it down. If I do too much right now, all I'm going to do is damage his tissue.
Okay.
But I think it's perfect that you went ahead and got her in saturated sugar. Yeah, let's put her back in here for now. We're going to soak her and try to get that back in without doing any damage. But that's a pretty bad one. I'm just telling you straight up.
Oh, I know.
Sometimes they just stick out a little bit. You soak them in some water. You take a little bit of lube, push it back in with a Q-tip basically, and you're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is
it's rough.
It's a bad one. Yeah. That's why I don't even really want to touch it a whole lot right now. Let's just go ahead and do that. We'll get some saturated sugar. We'll call it an hour. I mean, you could stay here if you want, but I don't know if you want to sit here for 6 hours or 8 hours.
Have you ever had any that don't go back in?
They typically we can usually get it back in, but if they keep prolapsing, then what you have to do is you certainly check for parasites. Then exactly put in a purse string. Basically, a purse string it's like a purse string.
Right.
trying to keep everything in.
So I ended up leaving her with the doctor, and they called me a few hours later and said that they were able to get it back in. They ended up having to soak her for about 2 hours, and it finally shrank a bit to where they could get it back in. It just was not. He said he said that they got it back in, and then a few minutes later, she pushed it right back out, without pooping or anything. They just came falling right back out, and it was worse than when I had brought her in. So it seems like every time she was doing it, more and more was coming out. So he called and he said, we could try to do the sutures, purse string sutures to hold it in, but he said, honestly, usually if that's going to work at all, she would have been able to hold her intestines in for a lot longer than a few minutes. Usually they could go at least a few days before they come back out. Hers was literally a few minutes, and I think they did that a few times, and they just kept pushing it back out. And he recommended that it wouldn't be a bad idea to euthanize because it's gonna become a constant issue like her whole life, and it's not really fair to her to keep putting her through that. It's not. Vet bills here are getting really high. It's a very touchy subject for me. Sorry, I have to squish my nose so I don't start crying. It's a touchy subject for me because I was a vet tech for most of my life. I ran a vet clinic for, I think, 12 years. And I love animals. I've loved them since, I think, the day I was born. And the second I started walking, I was playing with worms and bringing home little snakes and lizards. And my parents were really good about it. So I always had animals, birds. Yeah, so we've just had a really bad few weeks. Like it's been rough because these have been back to back, and I've never had to take an animal or this many animals to the vet so often. We've had to take him to the vet recently. He had a scab on his head. And I know the more pets you have, the more likely it is you're going to be going to the vet and so on. So it is something that I want, people to be aware of, that it happens. Be prepared for the bills. Like, I think today is going to be the first video I will ever ask for you guys to like and subscribe, because these vet bills are killing us. They are killing us. And so, yeah, I mean, it's when we're going constantly left and right, it gets pretty bad. Unfortunately, because I wasn't there, I couldn't video the process of him doing the actual, pushing the prolapse back in. But it's literally just that. You put a lot of lube on the prolapse that's sticking out and around the area, and then with a Q-tip or a cotton-tipped applicator, you literally just push it back in. And he couldn't do it when they were so swollen because he would damage the tissue trying to do that and probably be unsuccessful in getting it back in. We decided against the sutures, which is something people can do if they show promise of it staying in, because they can even push it through the sutures. Like, suturing it doesn't necessarily mean it's a fixed problem. It can still keep happening. And a lot of times when they start prolapsing, especially so young, it's just going to be a constant problem. We had to make the god-awful decision to go ahead and euthanize her. I did. So I picked up her remains, her body, and I'm, waiting for the ground to thaw so that I can bury her. And so that's what we're kind of waiting for. But it's a real thing. I mean, it hurts, and you end up with the guilt of constantly thinking, did I do enough? Should I have done the sutures? When you're faced with choosing to euthanize a pet or not. There's a lot of things that go through your head. There's a lot of, for me, it's a lot of trusting my vet, because I'll ask flat out, if this was your pet, what would you do? Because, I mean, legally they can't say, I mean, unless it's a severe case where they can truly say, you know, you need to euthanize them because there's nothing you could do about it. But I will ask them kind of like a loophole way of what should I do? I will say, if this was your pet, what would you do? And he said that it would not be a bad idea, and he would not think any less of me if I chose to euthanize at that point. So, and if it was his, he would do the same. And I trust him, so we went ahead and kind of put her out and ended her suffering. But the guilt, it stays with me forever. I mean, I have guilt with any animal that I've had to euthanize. It's something I've never gotten used to, even working at the vet and doing them almost daily. It's just not something that you can get used to. You move on, you try to make light of the situation. But anyway, long story here. So we had to go ahead and euthanize Zyla. Jake obviously didn't take it very well. He's like me, he's sensitive to stuff like this. And telling him was really hard. Sorry. So he's working through it too. And I'm not so sure we're ever going to find another female. I think we got really, really lucky with the last one. And if we do, I don't know, I just don't know how long it'll take for us to fill Zyla's enclosure with another one. But when we're ready, we'll start searching again and see if we can find Zingo here another girlfriend. So we'll see if we can find him another prospect at some point in life. But anyway, I wanted to share this video just so, maybe you guys could comment any little stories you guys have that might make me feel better, or share something hard that you guys went through. So anyway, I will leave you guys here. Try to have a great night. And I really appreciate any of your support, and like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.